A very good afternoon to you once again, and thank you so much for staying with us here on SA Today. Now, the High Court in Pretoria has dismissed with costs an application by the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association to have government's ban on the sale of tobacco products overturned. The court has ruled that FITA's argument that cigarettes should be regarded as essential because tobacco is addictive has no merit. Meanwhile, civil rights organization Tax Justice South Africa has joined the legal battle against the ban on the sale of tobacco products by the British American Tobacco. British American Tobacco South Africa's court challenge was postponed to August the 5th. South Africa is now the only country in the world to prohibit the sale of cigarettes as part of its coronavirus lockdown regulations after Botswana lifted its ban earlier this week. For reaction now on the story, we joined via Skype by Yusuf Abramjee from Tax Justice South Africa. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Abramjee. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Palestine.
Now, FITA has failed to get the ban overturned on the sale of tobacco products. What's your take on this? As I said on my introduction, that you also have a pending case, as much as we know that you're arguing the constitutionality of this decision as opposed to its rationale.
Well, I think it must first of all be said that the judgment in the FITA case came almost 2 weeks after the hearing. There was a long delay, which a lot of the analysts and the experts and even the applicants, from what I'm made to believe, couldn't understand. But be it as it may, I think there's a lot of disappointment at the Gauteng High Court ruling today. People are taken by surprise. Everyone was of the view that FITA put up a very strong argument. But be it as it may, I'm made to believe that FITA will be taking the matter on appeal, and I'm sure that a different court is going to come to a different decision. The judgment, if I just read through it very briefly, was purely on the basis that cigarettes, as FITA wanted, correctly so, wanted to be an essential item. The court rejected that. They didn't test the constitutionality or the regulations themselves per se, and that makes it different to the application lodged in the Cape Division of the High Court, where British American Tobacco, the South African Informal Traders Association, JTI, the Transitional Tobacco Association, and others have brought this application, which very unfortunately and sadly we are now made to believe has been moved to August. The applicant said that the court, the judge president, agreed last week that this application will be heard on Tuesday. But suddenly, after the applicant submitted their replying affidavit response to the Minister of Corporate Governance, it appears that the applicants now want to run away, or rather the defendants want to run away from the real facts of the matter. They've asked for a postponement, and the judge president of the Western Cape has unfortunately granted the postponement for August. I don't even know what the urgency means in terms of our law anymore.
All right, so, but were you not given perhaps sufficient reasons behind this delay from the 30th of August to the 30th of June, I beg your pardon, to the 5th of August?
Let me just place on record that Tax Justice South Africa is not one of the applicants. Yes, we gave an affidavit support of the applicants. We highlighted the extent of the illicit trade. We gave figures and evidence to back up the fact that criminals are making money because of the ban on cigarettes. I'm told that the reasons given to the applicants was simply the defendants, the government now want more time, claiming that the applicants brought new evidence, which isn't true. They simply came with a lot of credible information from the affidavits that I've read. They've come up with more scientific proof that there's no correlation between cigarettes and COVID-19. And in the view of Tax Justice South Africa, government is running away. They're playing delaying tactics. Justice delayed is justice denied. For the court to give the delay or for the case to be postponed for a hearing to August, I think is very, very unfair. It's a state indictment on our justice system, and it's simply delaying the process. We know that there are 11 million smokers in South Africa. We know the criminals are running amok. They are cashing in on the illicit trade. We know that 1.3 billion rand plus has been lost in the first 90 days of this lockdown as a result of the excise duties that haven't been paid. And we now stand to lose a further 1.4 billion rand with the case being delayed until August. I think it's very, very unfortunate.
So as you say, Mr. Abramjee, that you did not necessarily bring this case to court, but you've submitted an affidavit based on the illicit trade that's currently happening. Going back to this FITA ruling today, The court noting that FITA ignored the context in which the ban was put in place, that of course being the unprecedented global pandemic. The court saying that of course required a swift response from government. Are you still convinced that BAT will still stand a chance when this matter is heard in August?
Well, I think first of all, it must be said that the minister, Dlamini Zuma, first indicated there were 2,000 objections that changed very quickly in the submissions in the FITA case. There was a lot of duplication. A lot of the scientific proof wasn't before the court. Now, if the courts find that, yes, it's a pandemic, we need to act with urgency, and that is why government correctly so acted, we believe that why is all the other countries in the world not implemented similar cigarette bans? South Africa is now the only country in the entire world to have a ban on cigarettes. There was a similar ban in Botswana. They lifted the ban this week. So we are now the only country in the world with a ban. Again, if you want to look at the evidence presented in the BAT case and the affidavits of doctors and scientists, there is no evidence that there's a correlation between smoking and COVID-19. Yes, smoking does have its health hazards, and I think the full bench of the Gauteng North High Court have, in our view, urged, and I think on the appeal, FITA would probably be quite successful, we are hoping. But again, we believe that in the BAT case, the delay is going to severely prejudice the applicants, it's going to prejudice 11 million smokers. But for us as Tech Justice South Africa, we are concerned about the illicit trade. It's going to make these criminals richer by the day. Already 35 million rand on average is being lost every day. These criminals are making much more money. The price of cigarettes has skyrocketed. A packet of 20 cigarettes that usually sells for about 25, 30 rand is now selling on the black market for 100 to 300 rand. People are sharing cigarettes in many of the areas, that's posing a health risk on its own. And that is why we are calling on President Zuma and the government to, at this late stage, say and acknowledge they've made a mistake, to lift the ban with immediate effect, because reality is suffering. The tobacco growers are already saying that there's job losses that could be in the offing. The cigarette industry is suffering, and there again, it's going to cost them millions and millions of rands, and it's also costing South Africa billions of rands in lost revenue.
All right, so talking about revenue that's being lost, you say 35 million rand a day, and you're saying that a further 1.4 billion rand will be lost if the ban is not lifted. Let's just talk to that issue of people losing jobs, because one would imagine that this will translate to thousands of people employed in this industry losing their jobs as well.
Most certainly. We know that the tobacco industry is massive. It provides thousands and thousands of jobs throughout the chain, right from the tobacco farmers to the growers, to the laborers on the farms, right to the people in the cigarette manufacturing plants, to the transport companies, etc. Thousands of people haven't been back to their jobs because of the ban on cigarettes. And again, yes, we say 35 million rand in customs duties alone being lost. We know post the lockdown, there was already a problem with the illicit trade. And our biggest fear that even once the ban is lifted, to recover from the illicit trade is going to be very, very difficult. Yes, we've lost 1.3 billion rand in custom duties alone. That was what would usually have been paid by the cigarette manufacturers to government. Government has acknowledged that they're losing this revenue. And now with the economy being opened, restaurants opening, all sectors of the economy has opened, even alcohol has been unbanned. We see no reason why cigarettes, the continued ban should continue. The scientific evidence is not there. The minister is taking a chance in our view, and I think that government must now wake up to the fact that the ban is costing South Africa. Our concern is that these criminals are smiling all the way to the bank. Smuggling is rife. These cigarettes are being brought in from neighboring countries. A lot of the traders are going openly in parking lots, defying the lockdown, selling and trading in cigarettes. The smokers have no other option. They turn into criminals, going looking for their daily dosage of nicotine. It's a real problem.
We will leave it. Thank you so much for coming through, Yusuf Abramjee from Tax Justice South Africa, giving reaction to the Pretoria High Court ruling, in fact dismissing with cost an application by the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association to have government's ban on tobacco product sale overturned. So we did try to get a comment from the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco, but they said that they're still studying this judgment and still consulting with their legal representatives.